What's up, guys? I'm Bridget with Miracle Canine, and we're about to watch Disney Channel.
You didn't even spell your name.
Should I spell my full name? Just be here for such a long, uncomfortably amount of time. I'm going to the middle. Or I can do my signature too. There you go. There you have it. So other than the pooling, how's the week gone with him?
That's good. I mean, but I don't know. That's the only thing. Like he'll when he sees another dog or
Yeah.
he'll just completely lose focus.
Hi. Do you lose focus sometimes? Yeah.
Other than that, like he'll follow you with that, but like I feel like he only does that when you have treats.
Sure. Okay. Well, we can, if you wouldn't mind, we can start with a little bit of a walk to show you how to start to shape a little bit of the heel positioning. We could start inside just to get our bearings and then take them outside to work around a little bit of distraction. I think we can accomplish a lot with just the prong. I'd also encourage you to get a pet corrector, which is just compressed air. I have one right here. Just compressed air, so it makes kind of like a sound if he were doing anything like barking, and we can start to add this in to kind of stop the barking. So it's meant to kind of startle him a little bit, so when he's in that barking or biting your shoes, you say no, you give the spray. It doesn't sting or anything, and that will help reduce the barking and the biting your shoes and things.
This is like a loud air?
Yeah, it's just a can of air. You can get it at any pet store or off Amazon. But over the course of our session in the next hour, if I have an opportunity to use it, I'll show you how I use it, just so we can get a good basis and a way to correct him without going straight into the e-collar. Not bad. Sit. Good. Okay. Looks really good. He's engaged and feels like he's really in tune. Sit. Good.
That's what I'm saying. Like once one.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. With a little puppy, they can tend to kind of have a short attention span. So over the course of our next sessions, we'll work on building that and having him focus in on you. And it will be like small little changes that will help that, not something generally overnight. Sit. Good. And when we do start e-collar and we set the foundation up of the training, he won't get away with not listening anymore or being very distracted, because we'll have a way to tell him no. So with the movement I'm using, sit. I'm just trying to like take one step back and have him understand not to come to me and just stay in the sit. And then I want to step back into his space. Good. Mark with good and give him a treat. So he's getting the message that we kind of have to be right in his space for him to be released. Good. Good. Okay. And a good way to start to incorporate come is just using the leash. So kind of making it fun and exciting, because you want your dog to want to come to you. So we use a lot of food. Excitement, treats, and then movement backwards is a good way just to start to build the foundation of it. Nothing serious this week, but how I would do that is just, come here, come here. Good. Okay. I don't even have to formally use come just yet, just getting him in the motion. Good. Okay. So I use a little bit of leash to use that pressure. Good. And kind of almost reel him in. And I want him just to get conditioned to come to me and that it's exciting. Obviously in this room we don't have a lot of distraction, so there's not a lot of things competing for my attention. Outside it's a little bit different, but we want to build the foundation inside and get him in the habit of coming to you. We just want to make sure we have the leash and collar on so he's not successful running away. Because the more times you say like come or say his name and he takes off, he's getting some success from that, okay? So we're kind of slowly building his motivation to come. What was that? And when we get down the road, we start ECollar, we're gonna do this without leash. So that's the end goal. But just to give him the extra support, I always hold the end of the leash, okay? As he's learning exactly what to do, and I can back it up so we have a really high success rate of him coming to us. So again, I just threw in starting to build the foundation of coming to us. It's not formal. I don't expect him to come to us on command just yet. It's just starting to build that, is you would use a little backward movement, reel him in. I want him to be nice and close to me, and then I release that pressure. Good. Not yet, because we're still teaching, okay? So it would be like if you were in school and your teacher gave you a test on something you never studied before. So he's studying currently. We're teaching him how to come to us and what we want before we start naming.
If you're standing over there by the door, I'll put my finger in the ground by my shoe and I'll be like, come.
Yeah, good. We'd like to start to teach him, you know, like we won't always have food, good. And we'd like to, as much as we'd like to use food, we want to also make sure he listens without any food at all, okay? So you don't have to carry like millions of treats around with you all the time. But we're still really early on here. Good. Okay. Maybe lesson 5, we'll start reducing the treats. I think it's really good to use as much as possible with a dog this young, but we'll certainly start to show you in his behavior with the ECollar that he doesn't always need treats to listen. Good. Right now, we're just trying to create a really positive association and reinforce a lot of the behaviors we like. Okay? Milo, come here. Come here. Oh, good job. Okay. He's really engaged with you. So, yeah, I mean, we want to see that he's looking and checking in with you, and he has great engagement, which is a very, very positive thing in dog training. We want to see that he's focused on you, with you, and he's happy to work. If he doesn't look at you and he's really scared, that would be something we definitely want to work with. But I see a lot of his confidence come through all the work you did with treats, because he wants to come to you, he wants to work for you. It's a happy time rather than it being all about corrections or all about punishment. So sessions with puppies don't have to be super formal, and we don't have to have super reachable or goals right now. Our goals can just be that they're engaged with us, that they're doing the basics. But at this stage, I don't want to get super, super strict with him and shut down his capability for learning. I want to build a lot of his confidence here. So we're keeping the criteria pretty simple so he can win. So he's like, oh, I like this, I want to do it more, which is why we're waiting a little bit on the ECollar and really, truly giving harsh corrections. So everything you're doing with him that you've described to me is excellent. We want you to work with him, use a lot of food, get him really engaged and focused with you. And this is a dog that like many people struggle to have. So you already took your baby steps, you got there, and we'll continue to build on some of his motivation and starting to really get him working well and understanding the things. And I'll just kind of give him a little bit of foundational, like a little bit of a pool to start to build the foundation of our walk. If I really wanted to, like I see another dog coming here and I have him on leash and he starts going ballistic, I'm going to do a sharp 180 turn like this and get his attention on the opposite way. Come on. So I kind of do a sharp pop. Good. Come on, pup. How's it going? And another one. Good. Good. Yes, good job. Okay. Beautiful positioning. So this week, just as you were doing in the parking lot, try to do that. Use a lot of food when he's engaged with you. Do your turns when you feel like he's kind of slipping away. For the stuff inside, just as we were doing, you said you did a lot of like walking backwards, getting him to come to you. Keep him super engaged. Still work on your sits and things with adding a little bit of motion. And next week, likely we'll be able to start to e-collar and start to layer that into some of our commands. I think he did really, really well. Social with Bear and Ahsoka, which are housemates. Bear has entered a training program to work through some stubborn behaviors. We haven't socialized him much, so we're starting him off on muzzle to gauge how he is socially. As you can see, he's very social with his sister. In a couple moments here, we're gonna put sister away and see if he can interact with other dogs in a positive manner like this. It just brings the energy.
Yeah. She like doesn't stop or get tired.
So we got Bear off muzzle right now, and we decided to take the muzzle off because he wasn't showing any signs of aggression or inappropriate play with the other dogs. We've selected a really good group of calmer dogs. As we're socializing a dog the first couple of times, we like to keep the group very, very solid social dogs that have a very little likelihood of retaliating if anything were to happen or getting into an explosive fight. So we got some calm girls here today, and he's just having a girls' day. Yeah, sometimes we reach a point in training where there's like little bumps in the road. So it's not totally unnormal to have things that don't go perfectly, but we shouldn't have multiple sessions or multiple weeks of feeling like she's being stubborn or not listening to things. We'll try to see if there's any disconnect, anything we could be doing better with our timing or motivation-wise, and go from there. I'm gonna start our session off with just something I know she can be really successful with and get her confidence working with me up a little bit before we start adding in the bed again. Good. Okay. So here I'm just gonna wait to kind of strategically release her until I hear a little bit of quiet. Okay. Come on. I think like she really wants to be with you. Okay. So her desire, a lot of the anxiety is coming from wanting to find reinforcement with you. So she desperately wants to go back over to you and get pet, or you're her comfort person, you're her lighthouse. So she always wants to go back. So having her work through a little bit of this, I think, is a distraction for her. Okay? No. Yeah. What's really important with the training is that you know how to work her. So I'm working her just to kind of teach her, get her to settle down a little bit and show a demonstration. But it's really, at the end of the day, important for the owner to know how to kind of control this behavior a little bit. Okay? Come on. Bed. Good. Okay. Because the whining is coming from a place of anxiety. So we can't train her to feel not anxious. We can work toward setting up the right scenarios that we can reduce or have a huge reduction in her general anxiety, but we can't tell her, like, don't be anxious. It's like if you're ever like saying your feelings to somebody and they're like, don't be sad. And you're like, oh, thanks. Okay? So it's more about working her mindset and having a couple rules or expectations we can start guiding her behavior around. And just doing a lot of work like this. Okay? Come on. I know. Bed. And I'm making the criteria super simple. Just get on the bed. Yeah. Good. Okay. The best for her is if we have a really energetic dog or a really nervous dog, we have to be kind of the opposite of that. So I'm trying to be really calm and not excite her too much. Even with the whining and the carrying on, I want her to realize it's not working, essentially. With a very vocal dog like this, it can take some time of just kind of working through it and having her realize it's not effective.
Except for she didn't come running after.
Yeah. Good. What she's feeling is pretty frustrated because she really wants to get to you guys. But I think, like we discussed in one of our sessions, our first session, that nothing's going on. Like, there's nothing to be this anxious about. So likely it's just she's had maybe genetically she's just a little bit more of a nervous dog. And then previously, before training, she was getting what she wanted by whining or being vocal. So just starting to shift a little bit of that. For her sessions like this week, I want today to be super successful, so I'm not being super hard on her. I need her to have a good session, something she can be successful with. To kind of, last session was a little bit rough because she was getting used to the muzzle. Maybe coming back in here, she's like, oh, hell. So I'm just picking things she can be super successful about. I know we've worked on this stuff a lot, but just getting her mindset a little bit calmed down. Moments where she's not whining, I'm marking with good and giving her a treat. Good. And I'm trying not to release an active panic and waiting, even if it's a moment she's quiet. Good. I think we could start working on, like, starting to shift her mindset. Again, like I said, we can't train into her, like, we can't correct calmness into her. We can't correct not whining, or, sorry, we can't correct whining because I don't believe it's clear enough for the dog to understand why we're correcting them. So at home, it would be, I put her on the bed and just kind of get through some of the whining, reward the times that she is being quiet. Remember, your marker can always come, and then you can get up, get your treat, and give her it if you'd like to. And never try never to release her when she's in active whining. So even if it's just a moment, like I can walk over there, I'm ready for her to be released, I'll chill out in her bubble like I was over there. Look for an opportunity of like a couple seconds, telling her okay, and then having her be released. And I'd work on, like, not necessarily like we don't have to leave the room if we're going to like take a shower or cook dinner, but I'd start putting her on the bed and dipping out of the room. 30 seconds, just to start to encourage her to be in the position when we're out of sight. If we have to go get a glass of water, we don't want her instantly thinking, Mom, out of sight, I get to get off.
That's exactly what she did. I didn't
Yeah.
walk in the kitchen and she was up right there following
Sure.
me.
In the house, we can be pretty calm. We can use our marker, still use our e-collar, and then put her back on the bed. Do you know what levels you were primarily using this week when you had the struggles with her?
Like 50.
Okay.
And she was still like giving me some side eye about it.
Yeah.
She started low though, and like after
Sure.
she was like, not happy.
And when were we trying to do like sending to bed from a distance, or did you like have to go right over to show her the picture of it? I think this week we can just take out sending from a distance and go right up to the bed when we're trying to get her to bed, stand right next to it and make the picture extremely clear to her what we wanted her to do. Somewhere along the way, I know she was doing beds really well that one time, which is why we decided to challenge her, move on. But I think with her struggling, it's not that we can't get her to eventually go to bed, but because she's not succeeding, I had to make it a little bit easier for her. So our criteria can be a little bit more simple. Have her understand more so we can really get to the bottom of, is she confused? Is she being stubborn? Is she trying to guess the answer? I'm pretty impressed with how well she was doing though with the sit in the bed here.
Okay. If she's in the mood for it, she'll go right up in the bed and she'll do it. But then she just like falls out of wanting to do it.
Yeah. It's not necessarily like we're always going to have our dogs do something that they don't want to do. It's learning how to work with them when they're giving us that resistance, because we can't be in a position where she's not taking us seriously. And if we fall into a trap of allowing her to make too many choices, or we're not following through on commands, that's doing nothing but further confusing her. And I get it, like, we're not perfect as humans, we're not as consistent, but if you could try your best to remain consistent about a couple of things, I think you'll see a lot of improvement with her. And I know it's been pretty shitty and cold out too, but I want to start getting her out to new locations once we kind of establish how to set that up, so you can feel more confident going out in public.
Yeah, she's great on walks because there's not like really other people outside. But like, it's like going into the pet store or like going into like over there. Like she was shaking and making the worst noises when we first walked in. And like was not listening.
Yeah.
Like then she got like off.
A lot of it could be in our timing too, so just your timing here has been really good, but making sure that we're always marking with no the second we see her get off, and the no should come before the correction, which can kind of help precurse that we're going to be correcting her, that we're gonna start to hold her accountable. We, like we said, we know she can do it. We know that she knows what to do. She just knows who she can push around. She knows who she can get away with things at. I'm glad that we kept it simple, really good criteria. We'll continue to work simple things in different environments. Like I said, I practice 30 to 45-minute bed stays, wait and see if we can do something with the whining when she's quiet, reward her when she's quiet, release her, get her just a little bit more comfortable. I'd still continue to feed her through the muzzle, get her just pumped about that. I think when she's working with me specifically, she pretty much nailed everything, so she does know it. Oh, a new person! She said, oh, that's kind of scary. Most likely, I try not to correct dogs for a lot in social, like we talked about last week, because I don't want to make her feel really shut down. I want to see what she's like, if she's able to go explore. The only things we would step in for is just playing kind of lifeguard if she were to be really inappropriate and needed a correction. So when we socialize her into a new group, I just like to pick a really stable group of dogs that has a very little likelihood of starting any scuffles or anything like that, and make sure they're super social, so the dog coming in can feel a little bit more confident interacting with them without us having to step in for safety reasons. She did really well today. You can even use some food on walks too to encourage her a bit. But I think once we gave her that initial couple corrections, she knew exactly what we wanted. She was really engaged with you too. I'm really happy with her socially too, because last week she was a little bit more shy. Yeah. This week she seemed to open up a lot more and go and smell, explore, kind of come away from mom. She even played a little bit. Like healthy interactions with other dogs, even if they're not like super playful. Yeah. This was really successful to me. Just kind of chilling. You're the little fluffiest thing in the world. You did so good today. How's the week gone with them?
It's been okay. You know, it's a little weird because like being so cold, I feel like we were out.
Yeah, sure.
Not as many people involved.
Yeah.
So like several times I was like, oh, it was fine, but we didn't run into anything.
Okay. That's pretty typical for this time of year. It's hard to really get out there and work on some of this stuff. I'm hoping as his training advances and we head into spring, we'll have more opportunity to go to the park or a little bit more daylight. How have you felt the training has gone, like introducing the prong and things?
Pretty good. I think it's helped.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's helped. Like I know yesterday we went, like both of us went for the first time with him, and like that was just like logistically challenging. Like,
okay.
'cause he's kind of everywhere,
sure.
You know, and he definitely like wants to be with both of us, so he's away.
I think today we'll start to layer in a little bit of the e-collar.
Yeah.
I'll kind of explain how to use it, but initially, did you have any questions before we start with the e-collar?
I will just kind of hear what you have to say.
Okay, yeah, sure. So we'll be using it in two ways this week. Today I'll really go over how to explain it and how I'm using it, but we're going to be using continuous pressure today, meaning it's continuous as long as we're pressing the button down until he meets the goal we're asking him to. So we're going to incorporate prong at the same time so he understands and he's learning what both things mean. Okay. Continuous pressure stage, the teaching, very, very low levels. It could just be annoying at that point, and we're kind of guiding him with the prong as well, so he has a good understanding of finishing the commands and completing it. We're working at a teaching stage with the sits and maybe the beds today, maybe a little bit of the walking. We'll see where the training session goes, but incorporating it in super small doses this week with teaching. So teaching meaning that we're showing him how to do something. For correction-based things, like this week we could pick two things we want to get rid of or start to work on. That could be jumping or barking, or both. And anytime he jumps or barks in the house, the idea is that he has the collar on around those times that you're home, and you're able to tell him no and give him a correction, which is a little bit of a higher level to inhibit the behavior we don't want to see. So when we're adding a correction, it's decreasing the likelihood of that behavior from happening again by adding a consequence into it. So those levels are a little bit higher, meant to be a little bit more aversive. We're gonna start with sits. Come here, bud. Charlie, sit. Good. If he does what I ask, I'm not using the prong and I don't have to use the e-collar. It's only if he gets up at that level 3. And I go up. Good. And put him right back down. The idea is that it's kind of at the same time as the prong, so he's slowly learning that the e-collar sensation is akin to the prong.
So you're not doing continuous pressure, you're hitting a level 3.
I am pressing and holding the 3, so the entire time you hear the beeping, he's feeling the stem. Okay? So if we press the button one time, it would only correct him once. If we press and hold, it's delivering the stem. Yes.
Okay.
Sit. Good. And we're adding a little bit of implied duration here, meaning that I don't want him up, kind of like we discussed last week with waiting for that okay. So if he gets bored and gets up, I'm pressing and holding and using the prong to get him back into position.
Or do we never, like, the only times when it's sustained barking is like the male in the
Sure.
or any dog outside, so will tell us what to do for that. Okay.
Yes, yeah, so when he's barking at things like that, we'll start correcting this week for it. So the UPS man rolls around and he goes ballistic. I want you to tell him no. Likely, we'll set it up that he has the e-collar on beforehand, and we can kind of anticipate that time. We'll tell him no, and we're going to correct him starting at 15. If we correct him at 15 and there's no response and he keeps going nuts, we're going to jump to 30, and so on and so forth. The reason we go up pretty high and not climb up is I don't want to annoy him. I don't want to add to the problem. I want the feeling to be uncomfortable enough that he's like, what the hell was that? But like I know some people are like, well, I want my dog to bark sometimes to alert me somebody's there. And it won't ever take out him barking completely. He'll still bark like a dog. My dogs still bark. But I'm able to put an end to it when I find, yes. And if we can start to calm that reactivity, he can have an easier time understanding expectations we're setting in the house. Where he doesn't feel like, this is my house, I'm defending. And he's like, all right, my mom's got it. She'll let me know if for some reason there's burglar breaking in, but you worked him outside or?
Yeah, like on a normal walk, like in the
yep.
compound,
Yeah.
and like we would,
that's okay.
you know, say sit sometimes, but also like I would try to make it if he was going crazy at another.
Yeah. With the first week, we have no huge expectations. So doing what you need to do in that moment with still utilizing the prong is good. So we want you to utilize the prong, get comfortable using it. We're teaching him today what the e-collar means, so moving forward when we're going to correct him for reactivity outside or some of his non-compliance in training, we're just gonna go to correcting him. So we'll have an easier time and it's less mechanical, less pulling. I don't expect to move mountains within even our first couple sessions. We're just setting foundational things to help him become strong and start to set some boundaries. And a dog's gonna sniff, you know.